right, happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to MetaFairs Talk. For those of you who are new to this forum, this is actually monthly meeting that we have with Marike, where we try to cover different topics around the medical affairs space, especially around innovation in medical affairs, new trends, things that we see that are kind of gaining momentum, and it's always good to hear different perspectives and discuss a little bit what the evolution of some of these trends may be in the future. Today, we actually have one of the hot topics these days, which is artificial intelligence. I think we all have been trying to play a little bit with ChatGPT and generative AI. I think in medical affairs, we have been using some sort of artificial intelligence, probably for some time. I think historically, mostly to try to digest and process and analyze structured data. But now I think the use cases of artificial intelligence are certainly expanding. And again, today we are actually going to be speaking about one very specific use case of artificial intelligence, which is recruiting in medical affairs. So I'm glad that we have a subject matter expert on this topic, and I'll get to you, Elise, in a minute. But I'll pass it to you, Marike, just to say a few words, just for everyone who I haven't met before. I'm Luca Desani. I'm with Johnson & Johnson, and I've been in medical affairs for a very long time now. So, Marike?
Thank you, Luca. So I'm super excited today. As everybody probably knows, I did not know much about ChatGPT just a couple of months ago, but this week I've actually had the experience of reviewing a lot of resumes, and I incidentally found that at least two, maybe three of the candidates actually used ChatGPT in answering some of my questions that I had asked on the resume. So this is really rising, and it's going to be a different landscape to navigate, both for leaders and hiring managers, but also, of course, for candidates. So I'm super excited that we have Elise here today, who can tell us a lot more about, how the landscape is developing and where we're going next to in the future. And we have the comment section. Please put your comments in. We see them and we're happy to answer them when they come through. So with that, my name is Marike Jonkman from the Medical Affairs Leadership Institute, and welcome, Elise.
Thank you so much both for having me. I am very excited to be here. I will introduce myself a bit before we dive into the topic. I am an executive recruiter. I work with Thinking Ahead Executive Search, and I do specialize in medical affairs, which is why I am here today talking with all of you. And again, very excited. I live and work remotely out of North Carolina. Prior to coming over to the world of headhunting, I actually worked as an internal HR recruiter and have experience, as I call it, with the black hole of HR and your resume landing in the wrong spot when you're perfectly qualified for a job. So we will talk a little bit about how AI influences that, I'm sure, as well. But I have worked in clinical research also, kind of hands on the ground, also did a business development role with a local endocrinology office and identifying clinical trials to try to partake in. So I really have a firsthand appreciation and knowledge of what medical affairs folks do every day. When I made my way over to the headhunting world, this space made so much sense for me because, again, I've seen firsthand how clinical trials can change lives. And so I am excited to be here and contribute. And again, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you, Elise. So my question is, can you first, lay the land a little bit, what's going on, what types of AI, are currently incorporated in the interview process or the candidate selection process?
Yes, absolutely. So, what I will tell you from my desk, my perspective within medical affairs, I am not hearing and seeing of widespread use of AI interviewing, but we know it's coming. AI has been used for many years in pharma sales, interviewing and recruiting. And we know with the rise of AI, it's only a matter of time before it really becomes more common practice within the medical affairs space and with other, within other areas of pharmaceutical recruitment. So we are seeing that again in sales roles. There are certainly many different types of AI interviews that are being utilized by human resources professionals and hiring managers. And so, if you are asked to do an AI interview, understanding which type and what expectations may be around your performance will be key to being successful in those interviews.
Yeah. So I'm starting to get a little curious now because, of course, when I think of the different stages in the recruitment process where artificial intelligence can actually help recruiters and hiring managers to screen or pre-screen candidates, it goes all the way from screening resumes. We all often get uh, many resumes for job posting, for each job posting. So I can totally see artificial intelligence helping with some of that screening to make sure that based on the resume the candidate actually has the skills and requirements for and meet the requirements for the job posting. You already started to speak to the actual artificial intelligence driven interview process, which is actually probably taking it one step further. So I'd love to maybe spend a little bit of time, if you could maybe speak to what a candidate should expect, right? If they know or if they are being notified that they're going to have a interview or screening interview through or powered by artificial intelligence, what should a candidate expect?
So what we are hearing and seeing and reading about is that candidates can be notified via email or even sometimes now text messaging. We're seeing that as really commonplace in communicating with candidates about next steps in interviewing, automated text. So oftentimes a candidate will be invited to participate in an AI interview as a very first step, as you alluded to, Luca, as a pure screening step versus perhaps getting on live with an HR professional. Their resume has already been reviewed and scrubbed for keywords. They have been sorted into an accepted bucket, as I would call it, a virtual accepted bucket. And then a certain number of candidates may be invited to participate in these AI screens. There would be different keywords that might indicate, or perhaps instructions, if you're really lucky, to indicate what type of interview to expect. Do we want to get into the specific types of interviews at this juncture?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
So several different types, and I probably don't have all the official names correctly, but in layman's terms, the different types of interviews that you might expect would be, a video recording. So I would get on at my leisure, record myself, answering questions. Those questions would then be routed to an HR professional or a hiring manager who would personally review the information and decide whether or not to move me ahead. So that is one basic way. Maybe that's not truly AI, right? But that's a basic kind of one-sided video interview. What we see as a next step and where AI really starts to come in may be that the same format. I'm going to get on, I'm going to record myself answering questions. The questions could be actually kind of displayed on the screen in front of me, or there could be an AI voice reading those aloud to me, and then I'm answering. The next iteration may be that, again, I'm doing that same process. I'm recording my answers to questions. The AI, is scanning my body language, my eye contact, my vocabulary, and the system is still routing my video to the HR professional or to the hiring manager. But the system, the artificial intelligence system, is giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Here's your candidate. I recommend you move ahead, or I recommend you do not move ahead. Then there's really a third iteration, and that form is called AI assist. Then there's a third iteration, rather, where again, same process, but the AI is actually just screening you in or out, period. And so if the AI doesn't, like your eye contact, doesn't like the cadence of your answers, your body language, your vocabulary, then the system will actually put you into that same virtual reject bucket where your resume might have gone had they not liked what they were scrubbing for on your resume. So there are certainly different levels of interaction. What I'm also hearing from candidates is that sometimes the computer system may give you 1 minute to answer a question. But if you only take 45 seconds, then you just have to sit, and do you fill the time and keep going on until you filled the 1 minute, or do you sit politely and just smile? So there are a lot of nuances. And again, reading the email, the instructions, maybe picking up on keywords and doing some research if the process isn't totally clear to you as what to expect, would be very helpful in helping candidates to meet the requirements and to put that best foot forward in that process.
I think you're really kind of opening window into a very fascinating world, which is everything that's happening on the recruiter side, right? All the different applications and actually different levels of utilization of artificial intelligence from a recruiter and hiring manager and company side. But I have a question for you, Marika, because I think you open today saying that you actually have experience on the other side, so meaning candidates that were actually using AI, or in particular ChatGPT, I think that's what you mentioned, in order to give answers or kind of do well in the selection process. So basically what I'm hearing is that artificial intelligence is actually being used on the hiring manager side, but also on the candidate side. Can you maybe speak a little bit, Marika, about what's your experience has been, and actually how did you even find out that it was artificial intelligence answering your questions and not the candidate?
That's well, it's actually a pretty funny story. So I was hiring a virtual assistant, and I was getting in the resumes, and I had asked the question about how certain it was one of those questions, behavioral questions, and I thought I had made a pretty good question. So I got really great answers from a lot of people, and then there was one who answered oddly specific with bullet points, and I was like, well, that's a little interesting, but hey, I like the answer, so I'll ask her for an interview. I get about 2 resumes further, and I get a very similar answer, and I was like, okay, so the language is rather the same. I wonder what's going on here. And then I had about 2 or 3 additional ones who had reworded the same answer. So then I put my question into ChatGPT, and I got the answer from the very first one. So that's how I realized that actually the candidates were using ChatGPT. So now I interviewed the candidates, and unfortunately, it came across as no longer being authentic. That's I asked more questions. I asked them, had a face-to-face interview, but they didn't quite have the qualifications what I was looking for, but they did give the politically correct answer in that particular part. So this brings actually a two-way street. it's always a decision tree. So are we, as hiring managers and leaders, are we screening out well qualified candidates, and how can we prevent that? Are we not making, our experiences a commodity, or something, that's standardized? How can you really, quantify, experiences, or human interaction? And on the other hand, from the candidates, how do you maintain your authenticity as you're going along? And maybe at least you have some good suggestions for candidates to deal with. And then Luca, you can go over the hiring manager.
So I think those are great points and counterpoints. Maintaining authenticity in any interview process, no matter what the format, is so important. And I hate to go there, but maintaining your professional integrity. Not it's okay to use AI to our advantage, and to sharpen our skill set, and to sharpen the way we showcase our skill set. But you have to always, maintain that integrity and your authenticity, your own, your own personal connection, because after all, that's what medical, I think that's what defines medical affairs is the ability to connect authentically. It's not just to data dump, right, or regurgitate science, but to build those relationships to further science. So I think even if you're doing an AI interview, you really need to put some thought into it, to, again, read and educate yourself. And it's okay to look online at those question banks and think about best practices. I have interview tips that I share with people, face-to-face or video interview, which I think don't change. When you're doing a pre-recorded video, the tips and tricks of putting that best foot forward don't necessarily change. But one thing that I have heard in debriefing with some of our candidates who have gone through this process, and also in reading about best practices, is that you should probably practice. Find a bank of common questions. Again, not to copy other people's questions or answers, but find, hey, what are some common AI interview questions? And then hop on a Zoom or a Teams call with a friend or family member and subject them to your practice, or record yourself and play it back, or have a family member or friend review it and give you some honest, constructive criticism about how you're coming off, because the dynamic totally changes when you're looking at a screen and it's just you looking back, right? I don't see anybody else. Maybe there isn't even a voice. Maybe it's just those questions are displayed. And so your energy level starts to feel very different. And so recording yourself, I think, can be a big plus in preparing, thinking about your skill set versus the job description. You never want to just take the job description and regurgitate it and claim that you've done all those things. But that's always a great guide in preparing to showcase your abilities, is just, what can you speak to specifically that the company is looking to accomplish? And if you think through those things and have some snippets or some bullet points that you want to come across about your background, that can always be helpful in preparing for these types of interviews as well.
Yeah. So now I'd like to switch gear a little bit, and I probably have a question for both of you. Maybe Elise, you can go first, because I think we obviously have covered some of the different ways artificial intelligence is being already utilized in recruiting, whether it's by hiring managers or recruiters, or by candidates. You also gave us, some good tips and tricks. Obviously, the first thought, and I'm seeing, some of the comments also coming through the chat here. The first reaction is, well, it doesn't sound very nice to me that I'm going to be assessed by artificial intelligence and rejected without even having the chance to talk to a human being. I can totally see some of the kind of potentially negative connotations of an excessive use of artificial intelligence that again removes some of that like human interaction and opportunity for the candidate to really make points and interact with a human. At the same time, though, and that's probably where my question is heading, I also see potential benefits of having artificial intelligence involved in the selection process. First of all, I hope, and again, I'm not really a big expert in artificial intelligence in recruiting, but I assume that artificial intelligence should be unbiased. And, we all have been dealing with the challenge of having unconscious biases when we recruit people, right? So that's a theme, that's an issue that it's out there. So whether it's biases for certain ethnical minorities or certain backgrounds or whatever it may be, I can see artificial intelligence potentially helping in having a more, I would say, fair or unbiased assessment of the candidate. One other example I can think of on the top of my head is, reading body language. Some of us are very good at reading body language. Some of us are not so good at reading body language. Maybe artificial intelligence can actually do more predictable and again fair assessment of something like non-verbal communication. So long question to ask you: any good things that you think AI can actually bring to the table when it comes to recruiting?
Do you want to go first, Elise?
You can go ahead and then I'll go.
That's so one of the things that I potentially see, and then again, I'm really on the human interaction and emotional intelligence. So, I'd like to see more of that connection, of course. But I think once you include, objectivity, you and if you have a real good decision tree that is truly objective, you can, make the whole process a lot more efficient and easier. And that can also be much more fair to the candidate, because if you're going through a process when you're not really qualified for something and you're waiting on the line, like, why am I not hearing back about this? The sooner you hear back, hey, it's not, you don't fit with what we want, the more they can let go and look for the next opportunity as well. At the same time, I think you mentioned it earlier, Luca, everybody is applying, to everything, to multiple jobs. With AI, of course, you can scale and look at more candidates, which makes possibly also make you find that little needle in the haystack, that perfect candidates that may not otherwise have, come to the surface. So that's, I see advantages, but, I'm cautious, obviously. That's me.
I think those are absolutely advantages, as well as just, the efficiency. Something that I focus so much on, in my own talent acquisition support process, and so much that I talk with my clients about, is efficiency. How can you make an informed, thorough hiring decision, but still be expeditious in your process? And I think right after COVID, people, companies, clients got really good at that. And now we've all let our hair back down again. And we're like, well, somebody's on vacation and then ASCO's coming up and it'll just be 3 weeks before we get to that candidate. So sorry, their resume looks great and this is an urgent business need, but they'll have to sit there, and that's no fun for the people who are in pain, who need the position filled. And that's no fun for the candidates who are left in that state of limbo. So I can absolutely see AI improving efficiency on the front end and taking that first screen and giving a candidate some true progression in the process. I think that is absolutely, time is very important in recruiting, and the timing of the market. I think that to me would be the biggest upside to AI recruiting.
So we only have a couple of minutes left. I would like to ask again, maybe both of you, a prediction, right? Where do you see this going? How do you think this is going to evolve? And let me also get to a little kind of provocative question. Do you foresee a future where the entire selection process is actually going to be done by artificial intelligence, and you show up on day one without even having seen your boss before? Is that like totally kind of dystopian future, or it can actually happen? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Elise.
Oh, I do think that AI will be utilized more and more, and like everything else, we will figure out best practices around how to use it to everyone's advantage. Do I think that it will ever completely take the place of face-to-face interviewing? No, maybe for certain jobs, but I don't see it in our space personally. But maybe I'm wrong. I am proved wrong every day.
So, I kind of agree with you, Elise, but it would be pretty funny, the candidates AI versus the hiring, managers AI, and who's hiring who really, what's going on. That could be interesting when you show up for the first day on your job and you really have not the qualifications, and it's not the job that you really wanted. But I think AI is going to be very prominent in our society. It's going to make things so much easier. We're all going to have to adapt. We're going to all have to adapt much faster. My youngest told me not too long ago, when she looked at me in complete disdain, like, "Oh my God, you don't know how to code." So this new generation has different skills than we do, and we'll all manage, and it will find a way. So I think we'll be fine in the end.
Well, the good news is that apparently I'm told that GPT is actually very good at coding. I don't know if it's true or not. I have no idea, but you never know. Anyways, we are getting close to the top of the hour. This was really fascinating discussion. Actually, I'm pretty sure we really only scratched the surface in terms of the kind of dissecting the topic. I think there is so much, again, on the candidate side, on the recruiter side, the positives, the negatives. I really think it's a very fascinating and clearly rapidly evolving space. I need to say, in general, generative AI is something that even just 6 months ago I had very limited hands-on experience with, and even just within 6 months I already have quite a bit of kind of use cases and kind of exploratory things I've been doing in medical affairs, and we can probably have an entire session on that. Having said that, I think the next meeting, Marika, keep me honest on this. I think it's scheduled for June 16th. So that's a Friday, as usual, 1 p.m. Eastern. We will continue, obviously, with innovation in medical affairs. Again, clearly, artificial intelligence is a hot topic, and I'm also seeing, some of the comments that keep coming through, Vanessa and Steve and Laura. Everyone is kind of clearly doubling down on the role that artificial intelligence will be playing in medical affairs. So that's probably one of the hot topics these days. So you will certainly be hearing more about that in our future sessions. So again, thank you, Elise. Thank you, Marika. And any final closing remarks, Marika?
No, I really enjoyed the conversation. Again, a new world for me. And thanks, Elise, for giving all the strategy that both the hiring managers and candidates can use. So thank you, Elise, and thank you, Luca, as always.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it so much. It's always my pleasure.
Great. We'll see you on the 16th.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye now.